Time's up. Let's do this.
We're in for a wild night.
Welcome everybody to episode 145 of Born to be Wild, a Wild exclusive Hearthstone podcast where we have fun hanging out with friends, talking about the Wild format of Hearthstone and spotlighting members of the Wild community. I'm your host, as always, Nate Wolf. I am starting a little bit later than normal, but it's for a good reason. We have a really special episode tonight. In fact, joining you from Orange County, California, and it is unusually rainy here today. We have a big storm incoming, and I felt like it was a really good opportunity to say it was a dark and stormy night, because that's how the best stories begin, right? And we have a lore episode for you tonight. So I'm joined by three of my favorite people, and although he needs no introduction, let me introduce him. We have our resident Loremaster, Goliath the Dwarf, the teller of tales. I'm so happy to have you here tonight, and we are going to be talking about the Blood Elves tonight. And we talked to them a little bit when we did our last lore episode, but really there was so much content that we decided to do like a round two or a part two dedicated to them. But anyhow, let's start the show off right. Welcome back, Goliath. How are you tonight?
I'm doing overall pretty good. A bit tired. It's a Friday night, but I am always happy to be here. I've recently been I got back into World of Warcraft with the Dragonflight expansion kind of last month. I'd been away for a while, focusing on some other games and real life stuff. Mainly because there's a lot of cool stuff they're telling about dragons in the new expansion. I'm just like, I need to know the story. Like some of the gameplay, maybe, for me every so often, but I need to know what's going on here. It's like, I am that obsessive of a lore master. That part of it is my own edification, and part of it is I like having everything to come and share with you guys. One of these days we need to do a dragon episode, because there's a lot of stuff to talk about there.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Well, I'm sure we'll get to it. We'll get to it one of these days, definitely. But very happy to have you back. Hydra, welcome back. How are you tonight?
Doing absolutely fantastic. Also getting that West Coast stormy weather like you are. I listened to an American station because I'm basically right on the border, and it was funny because everyone's freaking out. There's actually like a snow warning in LA County for like up at the top, like people that live like 1,000 feet plus kind of thing. They were getting a snow warning, and they're all freaking out. And us Canadians can laugh at it. Ha ha ha. But yeah, same thing. I had to bust out the toque, the Born to be Wild toque. So I know that word is foreign to many of you, but here it's second nature. Right. But I'm doing fantastic. I'm super excited for our lore episode tonight.
Always fun. All right. And of course, ElectricSheepCity, welcome back. How are you tonight?
Meowdy friends, doing fantastic here in the still snowy-ish Denver area. Had a lot of fun jamming some Hearthstone games today. I've gotten all the way up to like 400 Death Knight wins already.
Oh my gosh.
So I'm going to get that golden hero power soon.
Yeah.
So then we'll still continue grinding for the 1K portrait, but the golden hero power is like,
yeah, that's where it's at.
Foundational, because it goes across all of the different ones. So I'm excited to get there here before too long.
Did you get the puppy one, by the way?
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
That's actually what I've been using is the puppy one. Like I've got the one from the Heroic Tavern Brawl. No, I'm using puppy.
I know I'm doing the
Darius.
same thing because I like it better.
Yeah.
Well, and I feel like
I wish that the voice lines like reference the puppy at some point. You know, it's kind of a missed opportunity there, but like the portrait is incredible.
Yeah. I love it too. All right. Well, anyways, yeah, excited to do this thing.
Yeah, so for those of you joining us for the first time, welcome aboard. Let me briefly explain how this show works. We record this very podcast live every Friday evening at twitch.tv/borntobewildhs. And the video version of this podcast is then posted to YouTube shortly thereafter. Audio versions are also distributed to all the podcast apps. So however you're watching, listening, or absorbing via osmosis this podcast today, thank you. Yes, you.
Thank you so much, everybody that's joining us live today on Twitch. We do the show live every week, and it's really cool to interact with everybody who shows up in person. I do want to say a big shout out and thank you to our executive producer, Shokunin. Actually messaged me recently and said, hey, I stopped playing Hearthstone, but I'm still going to support you guys because I love what you do. I'm like, wow, that's really generous and nice.
That's so nice.
But also thank you to a big shout out to Armorn, our longest running sponsor. Can I even say that? I guess that's the right word. And all of our other patrons. Just really cool to have everyone hanging out, and the support means a lot. So thank you so much. If you're interested in supporting what we do, you can like, comment, subscribe to our stuff on YouTube. You can comment on or review our stuff on the podcast apps. We do have some merch that you can purchase if you're interested. Look at these beautiful schmoopy family here wearing our t-shirts. If you go to our website, which is borntobewildhs.com, there's links to the merch stuff that you can check out if you're interested. We do have a Patreon for as little as $1 a month if you're interested. And yeah. Oh, if you're someone who's watching on Twitch, we do have some emotes that you can get. There's free ones that you can unlock just by following. There's also ones that you can get that are more exclusive that you can get by subscribing, which is free also if you use your Amazon Prime. So anyways, lastly, I do want to say if you're interested in hanging out with any of us, we do have a Discord channel. It's just a really cool online community of friends that we've made all across the whole world. We have fun hanging out. We share deck lists, we share the news items, we share screenshots and replays and all that stuff. And my favorite thing is somehow turned into a tradition now is looking at the past week of the funny usernames that we see and post. I can't say I'm not going to say the like inappropriate ones because like this is a family friendly show, but there's some ones in there that are really pretty funny. But this week's episode goes out to Optimus Slime, Sugar Daddy Q, Past Sheep, interesting. Wild Car Ride.
It's not me, but it may have been Past Sheep.
Don't Have Phone, Commander Dingus, Poop Poo Kachu, Glitter Fart, Big Pasta.
I can't even say that.
Old
I like
fat-
Big Pasta.
I read these
Good
to so my family started doing this weekly game night. Every Wednesday night we all get together at my parents' house, which is just a couple miles down the street, and we have dinner and we play games. We've been playing Settlers of Catan every Wednesday night.
Ooh, I love that one.
And it's so fun. And so I was looking at them while we were playing, and I started cracking up. They're like, "What? You got to read them to us." And I was like, "Well, they're not really appropriate." But the one that everyone liked the best was Dr. Shrimp McBacon. I think was the one that like had everyone cracking up, and including my mom of all people, right? So this episode goes out to you, Dr. Shrimp McBacon. So. There we go. Yeah, there's some really good ones in fact, and gosh, the like, Husband Beast, that was pretty good. Lone Calzone. I think my favorite was Mad 'Cause Bad. I thought that was so great.
That is pretty clever.
There's such funny ones, but like most of them are like they use like potty language, which I find funny, and I don't particularly want to repeat on the family friendly show. But anyways, yeah. So before we get into the lore episode, I do want to take a quick minute to talk about our weeks, because we didn't really see each other so much last week. I mean, well, I didn't see y'all anyways. So happy to be back. It was not a super eventful week for me, really. I finally got around to playing some Hearthstone though, which is a good thing. I always get distracted by Marvel Snap and all the other stuff that's going on in my life. But I know. So I was trying so hard to play Death Knight decks, and I was I was gonna hit legend with the Death Knight deck, and I was just so convinced I was gonna do it, and I just got tired of losing and losing and losing and losing. And so I started playing this Quest Mage deck. Insert from The Office, "You, sir, are a thief of joy." And
that is how I feel about that deck. Yes.
The other quote that comes to mind is from The Dark Knight Returns. I think is that you either what is it? You either
Oh no, that's
die
just the Dark
you,
Knight.
or you live long
You
enough
either
to
die
see,
a hero or live long enough to see yourself become a villain.
I have lived long enough to see myself become the villain. So I have an astonishing win rate with this deck, and in fact I think the grossest game that I stole was from a Cthulhu Druid who had 30 health and 30 to 40 armor,
586,
and a board full of taunt minions. And I was like, how am I going to do this? And between infinite turns and generating a whole bunch of random spells, like I cleared the board and I beat him. It was like, I thought I was going to get a friend request after. Like I had to go take a shower, you know? It was like one of those where you feel so dirty.
I am so ashamed of you right now. Tisk,
Yeah.
tisk, tisk.
But like,
If you can't beat him, join him.
Yes. I just got tired of losing. And so I decided to win. And this deck does that. It took me a minute to learn how to play it, because like I've been avoiding it. I've been actively avoiding this for like probably a year now. This has a couple new cards in it. I think it's just, maybe it's the prismatic element, I think. And then the spell, where is it?
Vast Wisdom.
Yes. That one where you discover 2 spells and swap the cost. It's great. It's great. I've discovered Ice Block. I discovered Pyroblast. I discovered, the game when I played 3 Ice Blocks and then another one with Savara was like, I've seen so much questline Pirate Warrior this week. I had no idea.
Really?
It's bizarre. Yes, I'm part of the problem. I acknowledge that. But like, I'm trying to hit legend. I realized yesterday that today is the 24th of February, and I was like, we only have like a week left. I need to hurry up and I only have like a week left to hit legend. When does Nate?
4 days to be specific.
Wait a minute. What?
Yeah, it's
there are only
February.
28 days.
No.
It's not a leap year, Nate.
That means I have to do it this weekend. I can't break the streak. It's been like 2 years or more.
All good things must end.
Not this month. When does Nate not play the toxic deck? That's right. I played the Warlock discard deck before the cards got banned. Oh gosh. Anyways, don't play this, because then you will be part of the problem. You can join me in being part of the problem, right? Anyways, that has been my week. And I gotta jam some games this weekend. We were gonna go visit my father-in-law, but it's like this storm is like causing snow a little bit north of us, and to the point where we can't really travel this weekend. So be doing some stuff around the house, but in my downtime I'll try to hit legend. It was crazy because I had this win streak, and I fell back to 10x this month, but I win streaked from Diamond 6 to Diamond 4.
Love when that happens.
So good.
It was great. I passed over rank 5. So there you go.
Didn't have to see Reno. Oh.
Anyways, enough degeneracy. Now for some wholesome content. Goliath, how was your week?
We've been having a lot of ice and snow problems here in technically in Central America, Iowa. But we got this pattern going on where there'll be like a really big snowstorm, and then it'll all melt, and then another one comes in, and like I'm just glad that they haven't all piled up on top of each other. But just like 2 days ago, we had like just this ton of freezing rain. I still haven't gotten it all off my car. It's like there's parts of my mirror that look like like artistic windows, like people have, where you want to let the light in, but you don't want anyone to see into your house. It's like there's parts of my car windows that still look like that. But we're surviving. We're Midwesterners. We know how to deal with, well, maybe not the same type of winters as the Canadians and the Coloradians. I'm not sure. Colorado. Yeah, maybe you guys have even more than we do, but yeah, we been dealing just with the Midwest winters over here. But I am a homebody anyway who likes doing things like playing Hearthstone and reading lore stuff and working from home. So it doesn't affect me as much as it does a lot of other people.
Very good. Very good. Sheep, how have you been?
I have been fantastic. So I've been playing a ton of Death Knight, which means I've been primarily playing Standard. There's the Degenerate Aggro Frost Death Knight deck. I've got a slightly different take on it where I cut Astalor and one of the Harbingers and running Nerubian eggs too. So I climbed up from like 10K ish to like 1.6K down to 5K, back up to like 1.5K, back down to 5K. Right now I'm back up to 3K because right now I'm mostly playing against mirror matches. So like, it's just who draws the more broken thing the quickest. So, it'd be like that sometimes. And I'm not really concerned about my rank because I'm concerned about getting Death Knight wins. A good rank is nice. If I can get 11x, that's nice. If I don't get it, I'm not worried because I'm going to have that golden hero power like soon. Last week on the show, I was at 288 Death Knight wins, I think. And now I've broken 400. So like it's those games are quick.
The grind is real.
So it's been fun. It's a good deck, and I know that it won't last too long. So getting those reps in while I can.
Nice.
Hydra, how about you? How has your week been, friend?
Last couple of weeks I've been bragging about, oh my gosh, it went by so fast and I've got nothing to complain about. Oh, now I got to complain again. No, we got some new management going on at work, so just dealing with that. They want to change how certain things are done. They got a new fresh ideas, which can be good, but maybe just not the history of knowing how we've tried that before, stuff like that. So
did they not have like the onboarding where like they're there for a couple of months before they take over of this is how we do things?
No,
this is how we do it.
This is how we do it.
Those are the things I've seen that give the smoothest leadership transitions. I've covered many.
Yeah, well, the thing is, the old leader was promoted from a manager to a director. So that leader is still there and I guess coaching this person anyway. But yeah, I don't know. I have my opinions. In case they're listening, I'm not going to voice them.
Well, be careful.
Would it be amazing if they turned out to be massive Hearthstone fans? You guys could bond over that.
I'm just going to garble this whole portion. Will you play back on YouTube later? It'll be that voice from Charlie Brown. No,
it's fine.
Margle.
I do love the freshness in trying to tackle things that didn't get tackled before and stuff. Just some of the approaches I don't agree with, but that's fine. We'll get there. They'll see that thing didn't work. We'll move on. I mean, there's like so many things that they want to do, and then we're all sitting there chuckling because it's like, we did that didn't work, but okay, we'll let them take a crack at it, and unfortunately it will fail, but just a different approach would be nice, but that's fine. They can figure it out for themselves. But so it's been crazy because they came in at a really, really busy time too. So I've basically been working late, and then when I get home, I'm supposed to be studying for my schooling, and so that's kind of gone by the wayside. I've been putting that on the weekend. By the time I get home, my wife wants to relax. So I've just been chilling like on the couch or watching TV in the bedroom. And I've been playing on my Steam Deck and just relaxing. And I've been, I should not have started now, but Civilization 6 was on sale. And
I love Civ 6.
Yeah, it's only $7.
Oh,
It's great. Yeah, like it's still
So
a
was your
full
face.
priced game. Like it's still at like AAA price, and it went on sale for $7. So I jumped on that instantly and been playing like quite a bit of it, and juggling that in Divinity too, and kind of going back and forth between the two of those. And
Hey,
yeah,
Hydra.
I did get my first victory in Civ the other against computers, but you know.
Oh yeah.
Still.
hey, Hydralisk, what do you think of your boss? Sorry, I couldn't resist. I'm so happy to be behind the computer again. I can
Yeah.
do this all the annoying things now.
And you know what?
yeah.
It's so funny because I sort of know how you feel when you're like, oh, I could just sit back and relax, because you get used to running it and having to move the things around, and now it feels strange to not have to do it.
It's weird, right?
Mhm.
Yeah, yeah. When you get used to it and then you don't do it, it's like, oh, I what am I? I get to
just sit here?
Because I'm as free as a sheep now.
But yeah, Hearthstone wise, making sure I'm doing my dailies, and like you, Nate. So on EU, I'm afraid this month I possibly could lose my 10x because I haven't touched EU at all. I believe I am still sitting at bronze 10 over there,
Oh my goodness.
and I haven't played it. And like you said, there's 4 days left, and actually there's less than 4 days because EU ends earlier.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
So I better get on that. In fact, like you this weekend, I'm gonna have to jam a bunch of games. I'll just play something broken. Maybe I could play your deck there, Nate. I know I have Open the Waygate on EU because I used to play Open the Waygate, old school Open the Waygate mage on that deck, on that server.
I will say I much prefer the old one where you just you drop 4 giants and then you just kill them with the giants in
That's
one
what I
turn,
played, yeah.
instead of taking infinite turns. Like,
I mean, you still could if you wanted to.
I just
don't know.
remember the version where you got a ton of
Aha.
spell reduction and with the infinite fireballs.
that is fun. I don't it doesn't work as well, but
They specifically came out against it.
Yeah, I mean,
well,
Sork being at 4
yeah,
is
yeah,
pretty
yeah,
big.
yeah,
Yeah,
it doesn't
it's
really
gross.
work anymore. But anyways,
Yeah.
well,
Well, we
oh wait.
Welcome to the news. The news is so good.
Oh, yeah.
So we do have big news. We're not going to spend a lot of time on it because this is a lore episode, but we got an awesome tweet from Matt London. I'm just going to read it out. Hi, all. Recently, we've seen a lot of passionate conversation regarding the Hearthstone Wild format. Thank you for that. Today, we kicked off a Wild Summit, a big internal discussion about the state of the format and how we can bring you the best possible experience. Wild has a lot of moving parts. It's unlikely adjustments will happen this week, but we're committed to building a great plan for Wild, sharing more info once we do. Thank you. So yeah, they are doing the thing. They are in discussions about Wild, and I feel like this is something that could have its own complete show, and we could bounce ideas off each other. We could go real deep into it, and now's not exactly the time.
No, yeah, I kind of thought like this news is too big to not share, right? But like, let's just hold off and talk about it next week, and we can devote like a whole episode to it. Because if we talked about it tonight, we'll just delay like the lore that we already planned. So I think that, you know, we'll think about it. I will say there's a lot of people that, well, I've heard anyhow, that are like, well, that's nice, but we've heard that before. Like, we want action, not talk, which is an interesting perspective. I think that it was hilarious that Ixar responded with buff secret mage. And
Oh yeah, that was so great.
Oh, what did Cora say? I don't have the tweet up, but
Something else funny.
Yeah, it was something about how like we should have meetings and call them summits or something
oh
like that.
gosh,
She had a
yeah.
better
See-
delivery.
See, that's
she had a better delivery for sure.
That's the thing, right? Though, like, Do they just have like a conversation, or what is this? But it's somewhat encouraging. I may be like sniffing the copium in heavy quantities with this tweet here, but like, so I reached out to Matt and we chatted a little bit. I was trying to see if I can get him to come on the show. And long story short, he's down, but I have to go through official Blizzard channels, so that process has begun. So we'll see if it pans out or not. But we've chatted, and I'm trying to make that happen. So I think that it would be fun if we can make it work, and I'll keep you all posted. But we'll see. We've also submitted our application for the community Blizzard community thing, and I have not heard back. So whatever. Yeah. We do have a big fun thing that we've been procrastinating on. And when I say we, I mostly mean I.
We have our listener series season 6 signups are live right now. If you are listening to this very podcast right now, you can go to esheep.city/B2BW series. And I imagine that it is also on the Born to Be Wild HS.com website. And if it's not already, Nate probably will have it up there by the time this goes live on all of the things. So this season's theme is Lords of Icecrown. And Nate has been putting together this incredible logo, which he says it's still a work in progress.
This is only halfway done here, because it
looks so good.
Oh, thanks.
If this was final,
That
I'd
was
be like
brilliant, making
thrilled.
Frostmourne the I and the Helm of Domination the O. Like it fits so well.
I was trying to you guys are gonna laugh. So the thing lately around with my family's been goofing around with the stupid Chat GPT thing, or whatever it's called.
I've
right.
Yeah.
And so my kid is using it to create like custom Magic cards, and my brother is using it for the same purpose, coincidentally. And so I asked it like, hey, I'm trying to design this logo and I'm having a hard time, and here's the theme. What do you like? What do you have any ideas for me? And it said, yeah, incorporate the Helm of Domination and the Frostmourne and maybe the Icecrown Citadel. And I was like,
What?
Okay. You know, I mean, it's just text, right?
Cool.
And then I was like, it's like, well, what type of font should I use? And it spit out like 6 different fonts. Why don't you look at these? And half of them were wrong, right? It's like, I was like, hey, I want it to,
Would you get like a frilly dainty stuff or something?
but I said, hey, help me find a font for Hearthstone, custom Hearthstone expansion or whatever. And it came up with 6 fonts, and 3 of them, like, and what it said was interesting, was like, well, Hearthstone is a fantasy game, and so you want some fantasy fonts, and so try like this or that. And I pull it up, and it was like this frilly, scrolly, and I was like, that is not right. But the last one, number 6 on the list, was like the one. But I had a buddy one time, a design friend, who said, you can't take a font and just use it. You have to tweak it somehow. Like, you got to make it yours. You can't just like type it out and let it go. And so I cranked out the 3D engine, and then I swapped out. I plopped out the O and stuck in the Helm of Domination. And I was like, yeah, this is kind of cool, but I want to like incorporate Frostmourne somehow. How can I do that? And so I made it the I. And it was kind of, I was not sure, but I think I like it. So I don't want to derail the show, but
also,
anyways.
Chat GPT.
It looks cool.
Oh gosh. Chat GPT also said that Nate, your name was Nate Freakout Wolf.
Oh, that was funny.
And, what was Craig again?
The walnut.
The walnut. That's right.
I was at Hydra, asked it, tell us about Born to Be Wild, and it said Born to Be Wild is a wild Hearthstone podcast hosted by Craig the Walnut and Nate Freakout. And I was
And like Freakout was even spelled funny too.
It was PHREAKOUT or something like that. It was so great.
It's got like Q in there.
Yeah, Q
it was
somewhere.
Freakout.
All right, Nate Q Freakout.
Freakout. Every once in a while, like, I keep saying, I shouldn't use my real name on the show. I should use a fake name. Well, freak out. I think I found it. My
I
gosh.
thought that was so funny because I asked you honestly, I'm like, Nate, did you ever go by the handle Freak Out? You're like, no, that's cute though, I guess. I'm like, well, Chat GPT says you did.
It didn't mention the rest of us at all.
No. So it's limited. ChatGPT only has knowledge up to the year 2021.
See, that's
So it stops.
I try to get it to make Hearthstone decks for me because I heard Raffle did it, right? And so I was like, hey, what should I play in Hearthstone? And it's like and then it spits out, well, my knowledge of is limited to up to 2021, and so at that time the good decks were Secret Mage and Pirate Warrior, and and I was like, oh, never mind. So that it's a little unfortunate, but it's an interesting thing. And I use the 3D stuff so infrequently in Photoshop that like every time I do it, I have to relearn how to do it. And then when I build everything high res, so then when I hit render, it takes like an hour to like render it.
5 hours later.
Oh my gosh. There was one night my wife was like, come to bed. All right, like I can't sleep because the office light keeps flashing. And I was like, I'm just trying to get this thing to finish and it's taking forever. And I was like, you know what? Forget it. I just turned off all the monitors and turned off the keyboard and closed the door and just left it. I got up in the middle of the night and I swung in and checked on it and it was finished. So I saved it and turned it off. But it's like, okay. Anyways, just when you think you have a good computer, right? It's like some things. It
just take time.
I guess so. Anyways, the listener series, I think it got postponed because like, we were busy having babies and moving and having parents die and things like that. So, but it's been like mostly finished for like weeks/months now. And so we're putting the final touches on it and, it's basically ready, but signups are live. So if you're interested, please sign up. It's free to play in. It's a custom deck building multi-week wild Hearthstone tournament series. Yes. And there are prizes, and it is themed around Lords of Icecrown and the undead. There's a lore element to it. Goliath recorded a bunch of the little lore segments for each week, and it should be pretty sweet. Sure, I'm missing stuff.
That's gonna be a fun continuation from the first one we had earlier this year, themed around the Naga and stuff, and it was really cool. The splitting of the more thematic challenge, but then also all the submitted community deck building challenge type of things here, and I'm excited to see how they merge and what people come up with.
Oh my gosh, we got a little bit derailed because it was tricky to get the lore to fit with the cards, sort of.
Yes.
But like, so we did like, well, here's challenge part 1, and here's challenge part 2. But there's also a component where you have to have at least X number of undead cards in your deck, and you've got to play one of these classes. And it was like, oh, okay. So it's a little over the top, but I think it's pretty cool. I think it'll be a lot of fun.
At least we know that won't be your generic meta deck that people are playing.
Oh, there will be no meta decks. I think the only time that we found, I think it was NHL found, there was 1 week where you could play Quest Mage, Speak of the Devil. And so we just banned Open the Waygate for that week. And that pretty much solves the problem. Like, go for it. Play Quest Mage with no Open the Waygate. Knock yourself out.
Good luck with that.
Mm-hmm. Anyways, if anyone is interested, please sign up. If you've got questions, like put them in chat or reach out to us on the Discord. I'll have the website updated this weekend, and we will start doing the stuff very soon, in like a week, I think. Yeah, something like that.
Mm-hmm. Very soon. Trademark.
All right. Well, unless anyone has anything else to add, the moment you've all been waiting for, and what I alluded to at the start of the show, it was a dark and stormy night, thus just the perfect time for a story, and no one better to kick it off than our resident lore master, Goliath the Dwarf, who will be telling us the tale of the Blood Elves.
Yes, let me tell you a story. Yes, gentlemen, tonight's story is one of great sadness, of exile, of corruption, of loss and destruction, but ultimately redemption and a happy ending. So, happy spoiler alert for that. But there's a lot of stuff we're going to be going through here because the Blood Elves, there's a reason that they're called Blood Elves, which we'll get to later on. But first, we are going to start, as we often do with these stories, by going way, way back. Not to the beginning of time or anything for once, but this is back to something that you guys, we've alluded to in previous episodes, and you've probably heard about and played through some things if you've done like the Demon Hunter solo adventures to unlock the cards and everything. That's right, we're talking about the War of the Ancients. 10,000 years before the events of the current World of Warcraft storylines. This is back in stuff that we talked a bit about, Sunken City, when we talked about Zinashari and all of that. So, pop quiz. What was the dominant race back at the time of the War of the Ancients?
The ancients.
Night Elf Empire, to be specific.
Detention.
Although they were ancient because they had very long lifespans and eventually became immortal for a time. So yes, the Night Elf Empire ruled over the world under Queen Ajara, who was, as we have established previously, just the biggest egomaniac ever. Like we talked all about her in the Zinasari. And if for those of you listening, if you want more information, listen to our episodes with the Sunken City. We talked all about how she ended up dooming her people and transforming into the first Naga and serving old gods and demons and all of that stuff.
She is so vain, she probably thinks this lore episode is about her.
Well, it's not Ajara, so stick it to you. But it is the reason that we're getting started. So what we now know as Blood Elves used to just be regular Night Elves. What happened was that because the War of the Ancients, which as a recap happened because Ajara and all of her sorcerers were so into tapping the power of the arcane that they accidentally attracted all the demons, and then Ajara decided to just go and make a deal with them for more power for her. And basically, after the war ended, this is after there's this massive explosion, the Well of Eternity gets blown up so that demons can't come into the world anymore, and the single landmass of Kalimdor splits into the several landmasses that we know today. An event that was known as the Shattering. And there was just a lot of loss, a lot of death, a lot of catastrophe going on here. The world got split up and everything. And so a lesson that a large portion of the Night Elves take away from this. We're talking people who are like the leaders, like Malfurion and Tyrande and Illidan and all that stuff. Well, not Illidan quite so much here. But a lesson that a lot of them took away is arcane magic bad, druid magic good. Arcane magic started all this. No more arcane magic.
No, we can't do that.
Yeah, that's what they were saying. But it just so happened that several of the survivors were people who had been of that highborn caste of elves who knew all the arcane magic, and they're just like, no, you can't tell us to just stop doing this. Just assume that, because we got carried away and Ajara got all the evil on us and attracted demons and stuff, that it's all bad and gonna do it again. But so there was this back and forth, and there were several elves who just refused to stop practicing their arcane magic. And the Night Elves didn't want to have to kill them or anything, so they just exiled them. The leader had a last name that you guys would be familiar with, Sunstrider. His full name was Dathomir Sunstrider. who, interestingly, according to the lore, because the Night Elf culture revolved around the moon so much, their goddess of Loon and everything, the Sunstrider name had actually been taken even before all this as kind of a we're kind of countercultural to all this moon worship stuff. We're going like for sun in our name. That's literally something you can read in the Chronicle lore
How
books.
funny. Is that
We're
why?
not like the other elves.
Yeah.
So is that why Kelthus, he says, like, magic, my people are addicted to it?
This is the original root of that. We're going to get to exactly how all that started, but yes,
Okay.
it's a major feature of the Blood Elves as they develop later on. So what happens is the highborn exiles who insist on being able to practice magic of the arcane and studious type, not the hippie hanging out with Cenarius type. That's how they view it, at least.
Far out, dude.
That's funny.
They-
That's great. That's great.
They travel across to what we now know as the Eastern Kingdoms, and they go through a lot of hardship there. So much hardship, we're talking like, nearly freezing and starving to death in snowy mountains, constantly having to fight back hordes of savage trolls, mainly the Amani tribe, which is going to be their main antagonist for quite some time, honestly. Humans aren't even really a thing at this point. It's going to take a long time before humans develop enough and eventually team up and learn magic from elves and stuff. But at this point, it's like an elves versus trolls thing. And this is actually why the Blood Elves look so different, because they lost their taller stature. So they're shorter than Night Elves, and they lost their purple color. Initially, this was more implied that like they got paler, but then Blizzard decided to kind of retcon that in a way, because they wanted to allow people in World of Warcraft to have like any race, skin color they wanted. So technically, there are like black and Asian looking night elves and stuff, and it's not really a thing that's a concern in the lore. But the main thing is that they got so cold and tired and sick and hungry that somehow that stopped them from being purple. I don't know the biology of how that works, but yeah. So eventually they managed to get to a place in the north of the Eastern Kingdoms area and end up founding the city of Silvermoon there. They are able to erect some great waystones and this magic field that helps to keep the area safe and actually helps to turn it into this realm of eternal springtime, which is why it's just like it's always nice there. There is never any winter in any place that is anywhere near Silvermoon City, honestly. There are a couple of native creatures that they domesticated there, which you'll recognize from some pretty frequently, or at least original Hearthstone cards. The Dragonhawk is one of the OG cards there. We have the young Dragonhawk, and then later on in Old Gods, we had like the corrupted Dragonhawk from the Grand Tournament, that's what it's called. We have the Dragonhawk Rider, and these are basically domesticated into their what almost becomes known as like a cultural, or in World of Warcraft a racial mount. They're fierce, fire-breathing predators, and they had actually previously been tamed by the local Amani trolls. Which is why there's you remember Janalai, the Dragonhawk Loa. Yep, exactly. And that was something they'd already done, and the letter was like, okay, maybe not everything that these trolls do is absolutely horrible and to be avoided. These Dragonhawks seem like a good idea. The other one was what we know as the Hawkstriders, and we have cards like the Hawkstrider Rancher and stuff. They are relatives of the Tail and Plain Striders. They're a bit more of a showy. They're like the poodles of that family or something, or the parrots, like the colorful plumage and all of that stuff. You guys know we have like the Dark Moon Strider cards. We have like the Lost Plain Strider all the way back from Goblins and Gnomes, and they're all in the same general family. Hawkstriders are valued for their trustworthiness and speed. The Blood Elves said that they embodied the inherent splendor of the Force within the Blood Elven kingdom, and they are really fierce protectors. Like if you have a loyal Hawkstrider mount, that no one wants to mess with you because they will. If it looks like you're in trouble, they will go at whatever seems to be threatening you with sharp bill and claws and all of that stuff right there. So things are going pretty decent. Yes.
I always thought of the Dragonhawks as looking like chocobos, or Hawkstriders rather, as looking like chocobos, but World of Warcraft.
Yeah, I guess so. I'm not that familiar with a bunch of Final Fantasy stuff. I've definitely heard the term chocobo tossed around, and I've seen a couple images. And yeah, it's basically the rideable bipedal flightless bird, like your ostrich or your emu or cassowary, but with parrot-like plumage.
Yeah.
So they're pretty cool there. And so yeah, that is basically the development of Silver Moon. The Sunstrider line of kings lasts for quite a while there, and they have their occasional skirmish with the trolls. It's not really that much of a problem in the end. Like they still stand strong and whatnot, but the source of all of their power, because like they want to have something like that old Well of Eternity that happened way back when. Now, what happened was that while the Well of Eternity itself was destroyed, before that happened, our old buddy Illidan Stormrage took a couple of secret vials that he filled with the magical water and kind of stashed them away there. In fact, that was actually why he was later imprisoned for 10,000 years, because he tried making his own Well of Eternity.
That's right. When it was all what was it called? When it was all like imploding, right? The maelstrom was happening, and he's sitting here like they're like, we gotta go, it's gonna blow. He's getting his like little vials of it to stick in his pocket before he runs off.
Exactly. And
no.
And so that's why they're like, he's doing the exact thing that got us in trouble in the first place. Lock him away. And they just like, for some reason, they don't destroy the files. I guess they decide maybe it could be useful at some point or whatever. But they do have like a massive tree to grow over the Well of Eternity to make sure no one can't get ahead of it. And that's a story for another time. But basically before all of these elves were exiled, old Sunstrider nicked one of those bottles from Illidan's secret stash there. And when they found Silver Moon City, they make a new font of magic called the Sunwell, our first ever neutral spell in Hearthstone. And it is the font of magic that just like kind of permeates the air around them. And this is the sort of thing of why they are addicted to magic. They are used to living in a world where the very atmosphere around them is saturated with magic provided by the Sunwell. This is actually just a small aside here, but there's actually a similar problem that a whole other group of elves who managed to survive the Great Cataclysm, they had a thing called the Night Well. It's like this shield that protected them and everything. And like for centuries, they had no moon or sun or stars or anything to survive purely off the Night Well, to the extent that if you're exiled from the city away from it, you literally just wither up because your body needs that magic. They adapted to need it. The Blood Elves aren't quite that strong of a problem necessarily, but it's definitely up there. And you might think, well, you have this nice Sunwell, everything. Why would this addiction be a problem? It literally permeates the air around it. enter our good old friend Arthas Menethil. Working for the Lich King right now. He's a Death Knight. He's not the Lich King quite yet. The whole March of the Lich King is more of those Hearthstone fanfic things where they merge all of his being the full Lich King and commanding the Scourge with the idea of back when he assaulted Silvermoon City. So at this point, within the actual story, he's not the Lich King yet.
Mhm.
But does anyone remember why he is going to Silvermoon City at all?
Well, he wanted to get the Sunwell, right? I mean,
Yeah, exactly.
I sent you this comic. I was looking for images, and I found the funniest. Like, I remember this distinctly from Warcraft 3, right? When you are playing as Arthas and you're trying to get in to get to the Sunwell into Silvermoon, and you're fighting against Sylvanas. But hold on. Let me pull up the image here because it's funny.
Ah, yes.
Yes, he really wants to get in.
Right?
Yeah.
Oh, but surprise, you know, the elves have the city under like super lockdown, so
Oh, yes. Lots of levels of security. Remember those waystones that we mentioned before? They literally provide magical barriers or protection around all of Eversong Woods is the name of the kind of eternal springtime forest that is surrounding the Silvermoon City, all of the Blood Elven lands here. And so what happens is that Arthas is on orders from the Lich King to use the Sunwell to resurrect not Nerzul, Kel'Thuzad. They have his ashes, and they're like, okay, so we could just resurrect him like normal, but this is an opportunity to make him like the uber powerful Lich who can be really, really useful here. So we're gonna need Sunwell magic. It's the only thing that's powerful enough to be able to make him into the uber powerful Lich. And so what happens is that, well, there's a lot of different parts of the assault, honestly, but basically Arthas and the Scourge are able to just use their overwhelming numbers. Like, you throw down a Scourge, then like it doesn't matter because every enemy that the Scourge kills is just raised up to become a new member of the ranks, which of course we know is what happened to Sylvanas. We've talked about her story already, so we won't go into too much detail, but she had the position of Ranger General, which basically means that she was the military leader, and so she is trying to lead the defense and having the various ambush attacks and trying to, you know, hold off. And there's actually 3 levels of security, like these 3 different elf gates. And Arthas manages to, you know, get through all of them through one way or another. And eventually he's able to strike down Sylvanas, and because he's resentful that she's been annoying and slowing him down, he raises her as the Banshee, and it's actually her being turned against her people that really breaks the spirit of all of the other high elves. Remember, they're high elves at this point. They were the Highborn, and so they kept that name for quite a while. This was the High Elf Empire. But it's not going to be for long. Frankly, this assault devastates the high elf population. Like, there is a very small percentage that actually survive there. This is like massive, not quite genocide on this entire race, as they're just ransacked by these armies of undead who want the greatest treasure, the font of magic. Arthas wouldn't have been able to get to the Sunwell if it wasn't for a disgruntled magister named Darkon Drathir, who is our warlock legendary for March of the Lich King. He was basically really spiteful, and he's like, I should have access to the Sunwell. I should have the great power. I should have the fancy titles, and they're keeping it from me. And Arthas is like, you know, if you just betray them all, you know, well, we'll let you have all that power, and you can take over. Naturally, Arthas just killed him after he stopped being useful, because why should an evil Death Knight keep his word, you know? But yeah, that is basically what happened. They used the Sunwell to resurrect Kel'Thuzad to his ashes, and this corrupts the Sunwell. Like, you know, this evil magic here. So basically, that is going to be really, really bad for all of the high elves. It's going to, like, you know, mess them up a lot. So the king was actually killed by Arthas in a duel, and his son, the prince Kel'Thas Sunstrider, was actually studying in Dalaran at the time. But he hears what's going on and he rushes back, and he's unfortunately too late to help defend against Arthas. Arthas is already gone at this point, but what he does do is he leads the mission to, they decide that regrettably the only thing they can do is to destroy the Sunwell because it's been corrupted. And it's like, having no Sunwell really, really sucks, but it's better than having this corrupted Sunwell. And the dark energies were literally already killing the survivors, and there's not very many elves left anyway, so you don't want that happening. And so they destroy it. They basically kind of magically blow it up. But here's where the writing gets a little bit weird here. Some of the remnants of the Sunwell's magic remains. They were collected by a red dragon who was disguised. He just looked like another elf. He's like one of those things where dragons like to have a mortal visage. His name was, okay, can I pronounce this? Coral Straws, I think. And he basically took the remnants of the magic, like the few pure remnants left, and he turned them into a lady who was imprinted with false memories and thought she was a real human.
No.
But she's actually the embodiment of Sunwell magic. Any questions so far?
Is she like touchable? Is she see-through?
Yeah, she's not ethereal or anything. She's a solid physical person.
Implanted with like a backstory of her own life.
Exactly. She thinks that she's a regular person. I kid you not. She actually ends up having a bit of a romance with the blue dragon Caligos. And like eventually kind of figures out who and what she is, and like she's as surprised as anybody else. She's gonna come to the story again later. But in the meantime, Kel'Thas has, as the de facto ruler, you know, the heir, the only royalty left and everything, he has a lot of decisions that he needs to make, including some vacancies that need to get filled, because Sylvanas was the ranger general, and she's kind of gone now. So this is where our hunter legendary from March of the Lich King comes in, Heraldin Brightwing. Not the fairy dragon Brightwing. We are friends. No, this is a different guy who happens to have the name Brightwing in his name there. And he basically just takes over as the new Ranger General. Kel'Thas decides that he needs to go out and, you know, do some fighting to try to, you know, get rid of this scourge that's destroying everything. And while he's gone, he appoints Lorthamar Theron as the Regent Lord. So he's looking after the city and the people, and Kel'Thas leads a full 15% of the remaining population in a joint effort with the Alliance to reclaim the fallen city of Lordaeron, which you might remember was Arthas' city that he grew up in, but later destroyed when he killed his father and just like absolutely devastated it in the name of the Scourge and all of that stuff. It's at this point where our buddy Kel'Thas ends up under the abusive leadership of an extremely racist human general named Garithos, who really hates all non-humans and is literally only in charge because every other competent officer above him died. And so he's just like, I'm in charge now because I'm next in rank, even though he is absolutely horrible.
Okay, Patches.
And basically, because of the situations that serving under this general puts Kel'Thas and his high elf forces in, he ends up being forced into accepting help from Lady Vash, the Naga. And when Garithos comes in and he sees that the elves are working with Naga, he's like, aha, I even more evidence why I should never trust you. And he locks them away in jail. But Lady Vash comes to the rescue and she's like, hey, I work for this guy named Illidan. If you join us, then I'll bet he could solve your magic problem. And Kel'Thas doesn't really see any other options at this point, so he's like, yeah, sure, I'll meet this Illidan guy. And ends up traveling to Outland and helping Illidan conquer the Black Temple and set up his base of operations there, under the promise that Illidan is going to teach them some techniques to help to substitute for all of this loss of magic. Because, as I said, they don't have a corrupted sunroll anymore, but they have literally nothing, and they're starting to kind of wither away because the magic is like a source of nourishment for them. They need it as much as food because it's become such a strong part of their being. In the meantime, Illidan has, through a set of circumstances, ended up pretending to be working for the demon lord Kil'jaeden because he wants to learn the inner secrets in order to destroy the Legion. Kil'jaeden at this point is dealing with the fact that the Lich King is openly rebelling against him, and so he tells Illidan to go and send some forces to be able to, deal with the Lich King right here. And this is where we get that iconic image of Arthas and Illidan fighting. Which do we have a copy of that to show, Nate? Yeah. Yes, there we go, right there. And from this, we get a different version of Scourge and Undead. Actually, we get the Darkfallen, also known as the Sand Lane, because a lot of the Blood Elf forces that Kel'Thas sends in to help Illidan, well, they end up dying and getting resurrected as undead, but a very particular type of undead. The Lich King kind of looks at them. He's like, I'm feeling creative today. I'm going to try out something new. I know. I'll invent vampires. So yeah, vampires technically exist in World of Warcraft, just kind of in this very specific way. And maybe there's kind of other versions. Like, we have the Venthyr and like the Revendreth. That's technically an afterlife and stuff. So yeah,
Murloccula.
Murloc.
Yes.
Yeah.
Who is a lot of fun. Yeah. But yeah, that is how
Don't tempt
we
me.
get. So we have the basically ruled over by Blood Queen Lanithal, who was one of Kel'Thas's generals. And then there's the Blood Princes like Khaliseth, Valinar, Taladrim, and they eventually become bosses in the Icecrown Citadel raid and all of that stuff. But basically, this is where the Sand Lane come from. And then, of course, over time, there's other Blood Elves who get resurrected into Scourge as just kind of normal undead, in the sense like maybe they're ghouls and you wouldn't even know they were elves, or they become Death Knights, and so they're basically just cool elf-looking Death Knights and stuff. But
so we have our Corpse Taker, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep, exactly.
I love that card.
And yeah, I'd say at this point, the elves are just in a really bad place. This is the part where they change from being high elves to blood elves in honor of the blood that was shed when so many were lost. So whenever you hear blood elves, or Cinderai in their language, it is very specifically like they are, as a race, defined by this tragedy. They invented themselves, and to an extent their culture adapted and stuff, and they're still trying to rebuild Silvermoon. There's a lot more that happens, but we're going to take a short intermission before we continue on with where all of that learning new magic techniques and stuff took them. In the meantime, we have another song to share with you guys.
This is going to be the first time I have heard this.
Time for the 7th inning stretch.
Can y'all hear it okay?
Mm-hmm.
Sounds good.
This one's about one of my favorite classes.
I bet you never heard that warlock Gul'dan say, for ultimate power, what price would you pay? Selling your soul, or would you deal with me? If I gave you destruction of your enemies? Well, I just said no in a storm wind a minute to shoot him away. Though I might now regret it, he just rode away on his dread steed. But now I've reconsidered signing the dark deed. I should have been a warlock. I should have learned to wield the bell. And I'd be summoning demons and destroying my enemies with shadow spells, stealing the demon souls like Henry thought Evan Locke, chanting those doom rituals. Oh, I should have been a warlock. I might have had a void walker with a funny name, running wild, casting curses, siphons and trains, being the cause of cataclysmic danger, making dark deals with mysterious strangers. Seek out the Kari pits. Haven't you been told? Discards and sacrifices grant power untold, tapping life, throwing nymphs out to be torn apart, with a fire in my eye and a curse in my heart. I shouldn't have been a warlock. I shouldn't have learned to wield the bell. I'd be summoning demons and destroying my enemies with shadow spells, stealing the name and souls like Henry thought Heaven Locked, chanting those doom rituals. Oh, I should have been a warlock. Should have been a warlock. I should have learned to wield the bell. I'd be summoning demons and destroying my enemies with shadow spells, stealing the name and souls like Henry thought Heaven Locked, chanting those doom rituals. Oh, I should have been a warlock. I should have been a warlock. Yeah, I should have been a warlock.
I used to live in a little place called Alberta where everybody listens to country music. So yes, I know that song.
I
Well
used to
done.
live in the Twisting Nether, so I was very familiar with that.
Yeah.
Oh, that was great. That was great.
Part of my ongoing quest to eventually have one about every Hearthstone class. We'll see how long that takes. But
Oh, yeah.
So before we continue, are
Well-
there any lingering questions or clarifications anyone wants about what we talked about so far with Blood Elves?
When do we get a warlock hero portrait with a cowboy hat on?
I can't
wait,
answer that.
In Battlegrounds, there is
Yeah.
a
Oh.
Cowboy Nazoth, which is
Oh, you're
pretty kicking
right.
rad.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's what. Bring that to constructed.
That's what I was gonna say, right? Here,
Howdy.
does it say that?
No.
No, the battlegrounds don't have voice lines, just the
Some
random
of them
emotes
do.
you can do.
Some of them do, but they're
Oh,
the
yeah.
like legendary ones. Yeah.
Right.
Oh
Pricey
gosh,
ones.
I love when they've got like special, I don't know, special voice lines. That'd be so great if they had one for the Cowboy Nazoth. Instead of yo ho ho, it'd be like yeehaw.
Howdy.
Oh yeah. I recall that now.
I should have had it up during the song. I forgot all about it. That's great. Good times.
Well done.
Thank
And
you.
how?
Thank you very
And
much.
howdy. Okay. So, where do we resume?
Well, we resume with the elves dealing with the magic problems in a few different ways. Now, through Illidan, Kael'thas was able to learn what some techniques called magic siphoning, that he was able to send back some emissaries to Silvermoon and teach the elves who were still living there, trying to rebuild the city, exactly how to do it. Basically, this is where they can siphon the life force from living creatures, which is a bit sketchy on its own there, honestly. But it's kind of all that they really have at this point. Also, this is around the time where the Blood Elves actually end up joining the Horde, ironically, through Sylvanas. Because at this point she has gained her free will and is ruling the Forsaken from the Undercity, and she, in spite of what she might say, she still has some lingering connections to her home and people, even though like they kind of previously wanted nothing to do with her because like they're terrified of her. Can you blame them? And basically, through her acting as the ambassador, they end up joining the Horde. They would have, like previously, they had ties with the Alliance, but the whole Garithos thing and the Alliance didn't really come to their aid, and suffering the abuse under the generals and all that stuff. They're like, nah, we're kind of finished working with humans right here. We'll join this other like fellow group of outcasts because we need allies, and this is kind of all that we have right now. But the mana siphoning wasn't the only way that they decided to gain powers. There's also a particular way that the paladins did stuff. Because before, so the way that paladin and priest, holy magic with the light, tends to work, it's the way it's supposed to work, is that it's something that comes through faith and devotion and confidence that you're doing the right thing. But after going through so much tragedy, most of the Blood Elf clerics and paladins, they really lost faith because they're like, Light, why didn't you give us salvation when we were in so much trouble? Which is a fair question. But basically, they still wanted to be able to wield those holy powers. So another gift that Illidan and Kael'thas had sent back was a captured Naru. Anyone remember what a Naru is?
They have light. They're are they those shard things?
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. Like from our whole Barons and Stormwind and Alterac, that whole quest about assembling the shards of the Naru. They are
Yeah.
beings who are like made of pure light there. They radiate
Yes.
so much holy magic. And can be a real pain when they become cards, apparently, because I have I've had some difficulties with Priest resurrecting that particular Naru quite a bit. But at any rate, this one is named Muru. And it's just M apostrophe U R U. Muru. And
They should make a Murloc version called Mo.
I can totally see that happening. Like it's been canonized in the recent Dragonflight expansion that there is an alternate timeline of Azeroth where literally everything is Murloc. There's a Murloc Deathwing, there's a Murloc Varian and Thrall, and like we've already had like some Hearthstone portraits of like Murloc alterations. Anything can be a Murloc apparently, but yeah, for this particular thing, the group of Blood Elf Paladins that form siphoning the holy power from this Naru become known as the Blood Knights. And their leader is Lady Liadrin, who been a portrait for a long time before she was a card. She was that one where if you just play enough World of Warcraft free trial, then you would get her.
That's how I got it.
Yeah,
Level 20, I think you had to get to or something.
Yeah. It's how I first learned about her before I learned about more of the story. I'm like, who is this Lady Liadrin character? Is like this random other paladin. So yeah, she was they were technically paladins, but they weren't the nicest paladins. They weren't they were literally painfully tearing their holy magic away from a being who kind of needed it. Because one thing you may remember from the Hearthstone story is that if a Naru ends up being stripped entirely of its holy magic, it becomes a destructive void creature, which they didn't know at the time. But that's going to play a bit of a part later on, sort of. Now, we also have a couple other factions that are constantly kind of splitting up among the elves.
Can I ask you a quick question, though? So she's got this big sword, right? Does it have? Is this anything special? You know, they all have some kind of special, like, weapons or names and all that.
I don't know of any particular name or lore behind her weapons. That's just, I think in this case, it's Blizzard just leaning into the really cool art for a major character like that. Yeah, sorry to disappoint, but this is one case where I don't have anything special about a weapon.
And these Blood Knights and Blood Elves and stuff, like they really seem to be with like the yellow and the red. Is there like a thing there?
Well, again, this all goes back to it's Sunwell and like that, and all the gold. It's very Radica was always kind of one of their colors, but yes, really leaning into the blood theme was definitely kind of solidified it as a major color in their heraldry and such. And yeah, it's something that they just kind of embrace. They also really embrace the concept of like the rebirth. Phoenixes are kind of their symbol, and you'll have eventually we'll mention Alar and such. So phoenixes are something that Blood Elf mages might have kind of specialized in conjuring over, say, the human mages of Dalaran and whatnot. So it's definitely, as I said, it did influence their culture quite a bit. So getting into a couple other categories or factions of elves, we have the Sun Fury. These are specifically the loyalist forces of Prince Kael'thas Sunstrider here. They set up this base in a place called Netherstorm in the Outlands while they're helping work with Illidan here. And it's basically there's this old Draenei spaceship that kind of broke into pieces a long time ago. And the Draenei on Azeroth, they live in one of those small pieces that's known as the Exodar, but there are other ones that are still in Outland. And the ones that Kael'thas and his stooges set up shop in is known as Tempest Keep. And they basically have like Illidan's like, okay, yep, you guys can kind of do your own thing right here. But eventually Kael'thas really lost faith in Illidan because Illidan was very, very paranoid and very, very secretive. He's like, I don't know if there are any disguised demons who are listening on our plans, so I'm just not going to tell my allies anything that I am going to do here. And Kel'Thas keeps coming to him with, okay, where's that magic you promised? I'm sure the siphoning was a good start, but we really need a working, lasting, sustainable solution right here. And Illidan is too busy with his secret project that he won't tell anybody about, which is the Demon Hunters. I suppose Kalas might know something about the Demon Hunters because I'm sure he had to have a bit of permission from Kael'thas for Illidan to recruit some of the Blood Elves into the Demon Hunter ranks. But really, it's like his top secret weapon, his army of the ultimate demon killers. He's just like, I don't want any of this leaking out. And Kael'thas becomes so frustrated with him that he abandons Illidan altogether and ends up working for Kil'jaeden, the demon lord who Illidan was previously pretending to work for and now is very obviously not. And Kil'jaeden wants to get back at him and all that stuff. So we'll put a pin in that. We have one more little break-off section because as Kael'thas is becoming more and more paranoid and corrupt, a lot of his followers lose faith in him. This is a group that becomes known as the Scryers. So we have our Star Scryer card back from the Ashes of Outland expansion, and the Apexis Smuggler qualifies as one of them as well by the uniform and the art. And this group actually is led by ones who had a vision of another Naru who is in a ruined Draenei city on Outland called Shattrath. This is Adele. You may recall there's cards like Hand of Adele, the Paladin cards. And
I
so
was thinking like hello from the other side.
And basically, they kind of have a bit of a conversion. They're like, yeah, okay, this Kael'thas is going on the deep end here, like he's serving demons and all that. No, we're gonna go and actually do some good and help to rebuild this city and make life better in this land. And it just so happens that this faction that's defecting away from Kael'thas has most of the brightest scholars and magisters. So who are like, the big mage people. And so it's a really big loss to Kael'thas's forces. Like all of his best people are leaving. It's kind of like how like all the top German scientists like Albert Einstein kind of immigrated to America as they saw that the political situation was not going so great. And so Germany is suddenly out a lot of the greatest scientists and stuff. That's basically what is happening to Kael'thas right now. He's getting deserters going on here. Now it's at this point that the Warcraft expansion, first expansion really, the Burning Crusade happens. So the Burning Legion sees all the stuff that Illidan is doing, and they're like, okay, how can we stop him or at least slow him down? I know, we'll trick all of the people who he has alienated in the past, which is like almost everybody, especially back on Azeroth, that he is actually just this power-hungry demon tyrant who is working with the Legion, and they'll fight the battle for us. It's that pit your enemies against each other strategy. So the Legion very strategically staged fake assaults on Azeroth from the Dark Portal, reopening it and connecting it to Outland in order to lure the forces of the Alliance and Horde over there. And then they see all the very sketchy stuff that Illidan is doing. We don't have time to go into all of this, but basically Illidan may have been having the noble goal of destroying the Endless Legion that wants to extinguish all life in the universe, but he was so ends justified the means that there is plenty of things that would probably qualify as war crimes, really, that the Alliance and Horde see, and like, yeah, this guy needs to get stopped. They don't know that he's doing it in the name of a greater cause, and maybe they wouldn't even care because he's doing things like draining an entire ecosystem and destroying its Zangramarsh in order to get enough water to feed his armies, purposely corrupting fell orcs to be like mindless brutes to use as soldiers, and just like a lot of stuff that's pretty strong evidence that this guy needs to get stopped here. As part of the assaults and exploring Outland, they end up in Netherstorm, the Alliance and Horde do. And this is where we get the Tempest Keep dungeon. This is where Alar is a dungeon boss that we fight, as well as Astromancer Solarian. Who they don't really have very much individual lore. This was in the days before Blizzard decided to put whole lore entries in the dungeon guides about bosses, just like a boss was just something that you fought and maybe had a few words. So we don't know very much about Astromancer Solarian, unfortunately, except that she was a Blood Elf mage who decided to really focus on tapping into the void. And the prime version that you draw from the card is one of my favorites, not only because the effect is really fun and it only targets the opponents if possible, which I really love, but that it really matches this becoming this void creature that is a feature. It's a boss mechanic in the Tempest Keep dungeon. So that's kind of about all there is in terms of how that dungeon factors in to the Hearthstone cards that we have. But at the end, Kel'Thas himself is the final boss, and he seemingly dies, but he doesn't. This is frankly where
Kel'Thas, after all.
This is where a meme originates because when you face him later on as a boss again, he says, "I know what you're thinking, but Tempest Keep was merely a setback." And so you may notice in some of the flavor cards, in some of the cards' flavor text, there are references to like blank was merely a setback, and that is all a joke of the meme of that Kel'Thas is like gone, but they realized they wanted him as a boss again, so they brought him back in this spell corrupted form.
Somehow Kel'Thas returned.
Exactly. Exactly. Now, at this point, Kel'Thas has decided to return to his homeland. He's going back to Azeroth. He's going back to Silvermoon and Quel'Thalas, which I don't know if I mentioned. Quel'Thalas is just the general name that they have for the lands ruled over by the Blood Elves. And he decides that, okay, we're going to take the Sunwell here, and we are going to turn it into a portal so our Lord and Savior Kil'jaeden can come over to Azeroth, and we will conquer in his name, and yada, yada, yada. Now, I know what you're thinking. Wait, but that Sunwell was destroyed. Well, it turns out that that this is where they figured out that the Sunwell magic was around, but it was a lady, and like managed to get a hold of the Naru that previously the Blood Knights had been siphoning, and using those together, the plan is to create this ritual that will kind of reinvigorate the Sunwell and turn it into a portal for Kil'jaeden to come through. This is a point where Lady Liadrin and the Blood Knights kind of realize that they did a real whoopsie in torturing this Naru and siphoning its power. They repent and decide to ally with the Draenei and other forces in the Alliance and Horse to oppose Kel'Thas, coming in with yet another new type of elves who are called the Fellblood. He just really infused them with Fel. It's kind of like how orcs used to be just like kind of more regular creatures, but they turned green after drinking demon blood and getting bloodlust and all that
Yum,
stuff.
yum, yum, yum.
Yeah, this is kind of similar with elves just getting infused by Fel. And a Hearthstone original example we have of this is Valdris Felgorge, who, again, is an original character, but he's very much like what a Fel blood elf is here. That's a lot of different type of elf factions we talked over. Any clarifications needed?
Well, I've got
Or
a
are we
note
all
here
good?
that says that Calicos is part of this, and what does the Shattered Sun like cleric have to do with it? I mean, I see the
Yes.
example because the green skin, right?
That's actually just the lighting on the card,
Oh,
the
well,
Shattered
there you
Sun
go.
Cleric. But yeah, the Shattered Sun Offensive is what the new group is called, with the Blood Knights who team up with the Draenei and the other forces in opposition to Kel'Thas's corruption. They want to restore Silvermoon, and they also team up with those Scryers that we mentioned earlier. And yeah, they're all called the Shattered Sun Offensive. This is a part where Caligos comes in because he was actually the one who, as I said, they managed to figure out that the magic was a lady and actually had like a romantic interest with her. Caligos, unfortunately, does not have the greatest track record when it comes to his attempts at getting a girlfriend. He had a thing with Jaina for a while, but they had to break up because she just could not get over her hatred of the Horde and wanting to be like, crazy powerful mage. She's like, I can't live with this. So yeah, it's this was his first one, and like she ends up sacrificing herself when she realizes, I am the magic. We can kill Jaden. So when Kill Jaden is coming out of the portal, because like he is really really powerful. He's like second in command to Sargeras himself here. Normally, your average adventurer could not defeat him, but she manages to weaken him enough that he becomes a beatable raid boss. And then using her power, she manages to actually so it's releasing the full power of the Sunwell on him, and then it's just she's gone. But at the end, the Draenei Prophet Velen is able to use the remaining power, and Lady Ladrin is helping out with this as well, and the remaining spark of the Naru Muru to recreate the Sunwell that is now a font of both arcane and holy magic. So it even lives up to the idea of being a Sunwell even more. It's like glowing with holy light and stuff as well. So this is like a whole new rebirth for the Blood Elves. They have a Sunwell back. They're not dealing with this magic addiction stuff anymore because it's just all around. And yeah, it's a really great news sign for them. The Blood Knights are now able to be able to get holy magic naturally without needing to dominate the light. And things are overall looking pretty good for the Blood Elves here. They even are having more integration into Dalaran and working with other mages, and things are going well in the Horde and stuff. And then an expansion called Mist of Pandaria happens, where a guy named Garrosh Hellscream ends up taking over the Horde. Garrosh is also extremely racist because he is an orc supremacist. And he is like, all you others, especially like you elves, because you're like really prissy looking in comparison to orcs and stuff. You don't belong in my horde. And he's like really brutal and stuff, to the extent that Lorthamar Theron and the Blood Elves are actually considering leaving the Horde and going to the Alliance.
Wow.
Like, it's
Wow.
that bad. However, Garrosh has some loyal Blood Elven spies among the let's see, what were they called again? Ah, yes, the Sun Reavers. There's so many Blood Elf factions right here. But yes, these ones are known as the Sun Reavers. And some of them are very loyal to Garrosh, and they managed to help him steal some very powerful artifacts that were being kept safe in Dalaran. At this point, Jaina is actually the Archmage of the Kirin Tor. So she is in charge of Dalaran. And remember, at this point, she has had her entire city of Theramore completely destroyed by Garrosh and the Horde using basically the magic equivalent of an atomic bomb. So she is really full on the Horde hate right now. And when there is evidence that the Blood Elves are using Dalaran to be able to get powerful magical artifacts to the Horde and are betraying Dalaran's official neutrality, she goes ballistic. She purges Dalaran of all Blood Elves. Like, it's either die or be exiled or jailed or whatever. The leader is a fellow by the name of Aethys Sun Reaver, who the Sun Reaver group was named after. And if you've played the Jaina Book of Heroes, you will remember that as, I believe, the final fight.
I believe so, yeah.
Yeah. And so this is like drives the Blood Elves right back to the Horde. And Varian gives her a very strong talking to. He's like, we were in negotiations. They were going to join us. You should have consulted with me first, because the entire race is not to blame for what these few did. Go figure. But yeah, that just solidifies them back with the Horde, unfortunately. Unfortunately, while being under Garrosh. You know, the Horde goes back and forth between having good leaders who care about honor and complete warmongers. Because, I mean, the story needs villains at some points, and not everything can be an old god or a demon lord. Sometimes you just need a warmonger to fight. Now, an important aspect, or another faction that we haven't mentioned, the Blood Elves, is the Reliquary. This is basically the Horde equivalent of the League of Explorers, and is why it is kind of almost an antagonist-seeming card in the League of Explorers set or adventure, because they're basically the group's butt heads quite a bit. The League of Explorers is based in Ironforge, so it's very alliance-centric overall, though they welcome pretty much anybody. And the Reliquary is very much about unearthing magical artifacts to increase power and study them. And so the two butt heads quite a bit, honestly. Thankfully, there's not very much that's going on in current lore. Currently, as things stand right now, and the Dragonflight expansion, the Horde and Alliance are at peace, and actually the Reliquary and the League of Explorers merged together into this joint expedition where they're all working together to learn more about dragons, which I think is really cool. And that is about where the Blood Elves stand right now. They've gone through a lot, but things are overall looking up. They're reintegrating with more of the races and factions of Azeroth, and doesn't look like there's going to be any major corruption or genocide on them again anytime soon. Hopefully. Fingers crossed. You never know when a plot twist is coming.
Plot twist.
Plot twist.
Good card.
That's funny. We did have a couple of cards that we skipped over. I don't know how much it changes things, but we had a couple of our legendaries. So Grand Magister Romath and Astalor.
Yes. So as the Grand Magister, basically Romath is the third important leader. So as we said, we have the Ranger General, and we have Lorthamar Theron, who is the Regent Lord. Basically, as the Grand Magister, Romath is the head mage of all the Blood Elves. He's in charge of like the magical research, and he was actually the one, along with our other fellow right there, who is very much an annoyance by several people who have been with the Man of Thirst used so much against them that they had to increase cost for the card. But I enjoy him. I enjoy playing him. But they're actually the ones who were figured out the start of the Blood Knights. Yeah, I forgot to mention that. So they figured out that we can magically siphon stuff from the Naru here. But yeah, basically, as Magisters, they're in charge of any and all things magic within Blood Elf culture.
Okay.
Very cool. And then there was a part, I guess, so when we were talking about Outland and we have the Sun Fury and the Scryers, then there was another section talking about Illidan recruiting Blood Elves.
Yeah, those are the ones who became the demon hunters. So when we have
Yeah.
characters like like
Sun
Kane's
Fury.
Sun Fury, he is the main one that we have who is a named legendary card. But we have others who are like the Glaybound Adept, the Crimson Sigil Runner, the Fell Summoner. Basically, if it's a demon hunter and they don't have purple skin, then it is a Blood Elf. Of course, Hearthstone they decide that they want to have blood elves, demon hunters of other races aside from knight and blood elves. But lore wise, those are the only races that actually became it. If you want to be a demon hunter in World of Warcraft, if you're playing Horde, it has to be a blood elf. If you're playing Alliance, it has to be a night elf. So that's how you can distinguish demon hunters. If they're not purple, they're blood elves.
Oh, interesting.
Ah,
I guess that makes sense. Okay. And then the only other thing I had here, there was a section attack on the Amani trolls. We had Zul'jin and Hexlord.
Yes, we glossed over that one, I'm afraid. So, as I said, the Amani trolls were kind of the major sticking points. It just so happened that when the elves built Silvermoon, they kind of built it on lands that were sacred to the Amani and the Loa and all that. So there was a lot of territorial disputes. Yeah, so the trolls are just like, colonizers! We want you out of here. And basically, the trolls previously had good relationships with the Horde, like several, troll clans, like the Darkspear tribe, led by Vol'jin, of course, became full-fledged members of the Horde. There had also been other people like Zul'jin, who had been allies or early leaders of previous versions of the Horde. But the Amani, led by Hexlord and Malakras, they became disgusted that the Horde had accepted their ancient enemy into their ranks. And so they were on this big quest in Zulaman to, okay, like we're going to capture Loa and we're going to infuse their powers into our champions. Then we'll destroy both the Horde and the Alliance. And thankfully, Vol'jin was very against this idea because he was loyal to the Horde. And so he kind of spread word around that, hey, this there's these other trolls that are causing trouble. You guys might, Horde and Alliance, you might want to deal with it. And so that is a large dungeon known as Zulaman. This canonically happens before everyone goes through the dark portal into Outland. So this is kind of like the big thing that the elves were dealing with in terms of the troll threats before all of the demon Illidan and Kalthos corruption stuff happened.
Oh, I had one final question for you.
Sure.
And I think that it was kind of towards the end, right? When fighting off against Kil'jaeden, and we see Kalthos get corrupted and in like various stages, but there was one picture that I saw where he's basically turned purple and he's got this big green like stone sticking out of his chest.
Yeah, that's like a fell crystal there, and
So what's
he's
the
basically
story? Because this is crazy. Like it. Let me see if I can find the picture. There. Look at that.
That's his appearance as a raid boss in the Sunwell Plateau raid, the one where Kil'jaeden is the final boss there. And so that's where he says that Tempest Keep was merely a setback. because like surprise, he's a boss again. But yeah, this is basically to show that like yeah, he kind of went down, but killed Jade and just infused a whole bunch more fell magic into him to make him even more powerful. And then yeah, he goes down as a boss fight again, no problem. But yeah, so that's basically. I like to say it's his. It just screams to me like it's not a phase, Mom. And that's all I can think of looking at him. He honestly doesn't spend very long in that form. The only time you see him looking like that is in the raid where he dies.
Okay. Crazy.
Fantastic.
Yeah, it really is a tragic story because he was a really noble prince for a while, just wanted the best for his people, but he kept falling in with the wrong groups, abusive racist generals and allies who keep secrets from you, and eventually he's just like a demon lord says, "I can help you. I understand you." And he's like, "Yeah, why not?
What
Why
could go
not at this
wrong?
point?"
At this point,
Everything.
yeah.
Good call.
Everything can go wrong. Never sign deals with demons. It never works well.
Monkey paw curls.
Wow. Well, thank you very much for sharing the story of the Blood Elves with us. It's always fun to learn more and to hear about these iconic characters, and super cool. Thank you, Goliath. I appreciate it.
Thank you
My
so
pleasure.
much.
And now I will have to stop calling them Hearthstone chocobos.
It's amazing.
Let's face it, of all the Warcraft races, you could argue the Blood Elves look the most anime by their very nature, so.
Oh yeah.
True.
Of all the Hearthstone or the World of Warcraft characters, right? Like, when my brother used to play a ton of it when we were younger, and like every time I'd look at him, like, wow, these guys have huge shoulder pads and like giant boots. And when I looked at the Blood Elves, like, I was like, well, these guys are cool. It's like everything is red and gold and orange, and it's all intricate, and it's like, I don't know, they're just so cool looking.
Yeah. Fun fact, before I ended up making Goliath the Dwarf as a full-on character, my very first World of Warcraft character was a Blood Elf Warlock. So
Ooh.
I
That's
I
sweet.
have a lot of investment in them. And thus the Warlock song.
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
Very nice.
Well, good times. Before we sign off, anybody need any questions answered? Need any advice? Since we were in that business,
Are we talking about unrelated advice?
we maybe. If anyone has a question,
Okay.
wait.
I'd like to ask a question.
And now, unrelated advice. With Nate Wolf.
All right, ask away.
So as I said, we've been dealing with a lot of freezing rain stuff recently, and I am having a lot of trouble getting ice off of my rear view mirrors. Does anyone know how to get ice off of a mirror?
The ones, so like your side view mirrors?
Yes. Sorry,
So-
the side view, not the rear view.
What works for me is we have like these little ice scrapers that on one side is like the ice scraper and on the other side is like a brush. So you can like brush stuff off the top of your car and it's not, dangerous. What I typically do is I like will brush the like side mirrors first and then, like start brushing off everything else and getting all the ice off and then kind of come back to it. And if it hasn't melted by then kind of use the little scraper on it. But typically it's melted by then because it, the sun's out at that point. That's what works for me. I don't know, your mileage may vary based on proximity to the sun. Speaking of the sun, well, right?
So what I hear is and what I have done in the past, which I'm told to never do, is to pour water on it right? Because it cold water can freeze, hot water can crack your glass. So
Yeah, what I'm most afraid of is scratching up the mirror.
so Google says that a mix of 2/3 rubbing alcohol and 1/3 water in a spray bottle will work like a charm, and it will disappear the frost. So there you go.
Hey,
Take that,
yeah, you should
Frostmourne.
try that.
Yeah, Lich King just like wave Frostmourne over my car. It's been a real pain, you know.
Or you could be like the worst Canadian like me and be unprepared because like yes, I live here. Should I have all the things in my vehicle? A big brush, a scraper, everything? Yes, I should. Do I ever? Absolutely not. Like when I have this much snow on top of my truck, I go out there and I put my arm in my sleeve and I'm doing this, wiping it off. And like it's so stupid. I am not prepared.
You are not prepared.
There you go.
And thus using a credit card to take the ice off of my little side mirrors. But I mean, the truck I have now, they're like heated, so it doesn't matter.
Oh,
you're
that's
fancy,
nice.
huh?
But in the past, the credit card definitely it works. And in true Canadian fashion, I use my Canadian Tire points card.
Well, there you have it. Wiser words were never spoken, and you heard that on
Born to be wild.